There are a number of statistics about how much fraud in general costs organizations. Some people may think that there isn't that much, but there is. I think the most consistent statistics over the last several decades is that every year, roughly 5% of total revenue of companies is lost to fraud. And if you think about that, that is a great deal of money. I decided to look at why people are honest, primarily because so many of us, including myself, look at why do people misreport. So we wanted to identify people who have higher internal motivations to report honestly or higher external motivations to report honestly, because identifying these people helps management put together the right controls within an organization to really try to get the right mix of controls for their workforce. We developed a measure, it's a short little survey, 13 items. People just, respond, agree, disagree with these things. From that, it captures their internal or external motivations to report honestly, and it's predictive of their behavior. I think the main insight from our research for businesses and for management is, first and foremost, know your employees. So I think it's worthwhile to perhaps survey employees using this measure that we came up with anonymously. We don't want employees feeling like management is looking at them too closely. But so, for example, for a work group that is primarily high in internal motivations to report honestly, management doesn't have to have very tight or draconian controls in place. And in fact, the other thing that management should do, besides just survey their employees about their motivations, is their perception of the controls. Because a very interesting finding is that people who are higher in these internal motivations can react negatively to controls that threaten their autonomy. And so what can happen is unintended consequence. Someone who might normally be, predisposed to be honest with everything, they will be dishonest if they feel their autonomy is threatened. People who want to be honest, we would call them people who are higher in internal motivations to report honestly. People who are more interested in just appearing honest would be higher in external motivations to report honestly. Managers really need to understand employees' perceptions of their controls. Management can think a control is not perceived as too onerous or too controlling, but employees might perceive it completely differently. There have been many studies that have shown huge gaps between what managers think and what employees think. So I think it has to begin with really understanding employees' perceptions of controls, and then combining that with knowledge of, let's say, a work group and how high they might be in these internal motivations. You can design the right controls for them that don't have to be too controlling. They could be perhaps more supportive. The example I like to use for controls, performance reviews, things like that, rewarding honest reporting versus punishing dishonest reporting. People can react to those two different controls quite differently, depending on their perceptions.